A book by Alberto Manuel, The History of Reading. Illicit holders of power for many years have known that the easiest crowd to rule is illiterate. And if you cannot prevent people from learning to read, the next best recourse is to limit its scope. I've been fortunate in my life and my career to have experiences in different types of libraries. My personal experiences took me to public libraries in small towns where I spent summers, as well as cities, New York City and Chicago, and then a very good college library. But it was when I found out about what librarianship really was after I graduated with a major in history and then a minor in political science. And I called myself an accidental librarian because I didn't know what the profession of librarianship was. I just loved libraries. And after I graduated, I was looking for employment, trying to figure out, was I going to go to law school or what? And I hung out between interviews in my favorite place, the public library. And someone who had just graduated with me saw me in that public library and said, "Are you here for those library jobs? They'll hire anybody with any degree." And that was my introduction to, well, what are libraries about and what are librarians about? And then I got a chance to work in a storefront library in Chicago. And that's when I really realized that libraries were more than the places to just check out books or sit and read. They were actually community hubs. In 2015, after the death of Freddie Gray and the intense community unrest and uncertainty, the public libraries, and there was one particular one that was at the epicenter of the unrest and where the incident actually happened, it's a subject of concern because this one facility right on the corner where so much was happening, the demonstrations, all types of things, was a two-story, and still is a two-story beacon of hope, but it was a two-story facility with glass and was the really place that everyone went. But when the unrest really became very difficult, the librarian was at that facility was very concerned. Not so much that the library would be damaged as much as it would not be available to the public when they needed it. And so we decided, and I was there the next day after the people throughout the world saw a car burning that was right across from that facility, when we opened up that library. And there were people from the community who were so grateful because one young man said, "I needed to get to the computer to file an application for a job. And I had to come to the library. This is where I use the internet." And then by the end of the week, the library was the only public facility open. There were no commercial establishments open, and the library became a food distribution center, a place for young people and educators were giving classes. It was a place that social services were being delivered, and the media had no other place to go. And so the library became and maintained its position as a hub in a city that was going through so much. The Librarian of Congress is a position that is nominated by the President of the United States and has to be confirmed by the United States Senate. And I was nominated by President Barack Obama and positively confirmed by the United States Senate. And I'm the 14th since 1802. I'm the first female and the first person of color. And that last part of being a person of color, personally and professionally, is very significant because in this country, people who looked like me were by law forbidden to learn to read, and people who taught them to read were punished as well. The Library of Congress is the national library for the United States. It is the research arm of the United States Congress, and that is comparable to what a parliamentary library would be in other countries. It also is the largest library in the United States, and it serves everyone. It is the library that has over 836 miles and many kilometers of shelving. It has every format that you can imagine, film, every photographs. It has the papers of 23 presidents, Supreme Court justices, and it also is a entity that provides inspiration and protects the intellectual property of creators. The Library of Congress is the administrative operator of the U.S. copyright system. It is a national library with a global scope. And in its origins, Thomas Jefferson gave his and sold his library to the U.S. government. And he said that there is no subject to which a member of Congress should not have to refer. And he had a global collection, and it included the Quran. It included language books in other languages. And so that idea that people in this nation needed to know about the world, not just their own history, but the world itself, has been a guiding principle for the Library of Congress. And so there are 6 overseas offices that the Library of Congress maintains with people who are from the different regions. There's a library office in Cairo, in Islamabad, Jakarta, Nairobi, New Delhi, and Rio de Janeiro. And those offices are charged with collecting materials from the regions and making them available not only to the people in this country, but also all over the world. And that commitment to be a partner in the global information sphere is something that the Library of Congress is participating to this day. A book that I have to mention that discusses the social infrastructure role and place of libraries globally is called Palaces for the People. And I'm going to look directly at the subtitle because it's important. How social infrastructure can help fight inequality, polarization, and the decline of civic life. And it's by Eric Kleinenberg. And it speaks to the role that most public libraries have in communities and the outlook for making sure that people who are looking at their countries and communities and societies consider the fact that there are sometimes more public libraries in communities than any other public institution other than schools, and that they are entities that can contribute to civic life. What has been very difficult, and I'm in touch with my public library colleagues during the current pandemic global crisis is that the library as place, that third place that's been talked about in so many instances that the library represents, has had to be physically closed. And it's been very difficult because I know the experiences from Baltimore, Maryland. That library as place during a crisis is very important, and something that librarians are very committed to has been very difficult. However, libraries have recognized that they have a role even more in the digital landscape. One librarian in Denmark talks about it. The public libraries in Denmark have made that commitment. Data democracy and digital democracy, and that the digital resources, the virtual programming that libraries are doing, some libraries are actually taking their mobile units that they have and they're going into rural and other areas that have difficulties with the technology infrastructure, and they are providing and rolling up into communities and providing the digital access. And so this current situation has really reinforced not only the importance of library as place, physical space, but also what their role can be in the digital world. On a professional and personal level, I have realized that libraries are, of course, the repository of history and thinking, connecting with authors from the past, and recognizing that there have been other times when one of the aspects of going back in history is looking at what happened before, maybe learning some lessons, or at least realizing that this is a journey that we're all on together. And personally, I have found that looking at past struggles of people who have been involved in different aspects of life and challenges, and especially as a person of color, reading about what Ida B. Wells went through and other people in groups, Pullman porters. I've been reading a lot about Pullman porters. These are the African-American gentlemen who sometimes had PhDs and advanced degrees, but could only find work